Hi, guys, and welcome to another Being Becca Live. I am here back in my office. I feel a little blown out, although that little correction there seems to have helped a whole lot. I don't know, it's an odd day outside. It's like really, really overcast, and we're also getting some smoke over here in Colorado from California. So it's super duper overcast. And then it's got the sun behind it, so it's super glary, and I feel like that's how my office feels right now. It's very glary, so I'm sorry if the lighting feels weird. But anyway, you guys, welcome to the next Being Back Alive. Happy Wednesday. Happy September. It's the first day of September. Woo woo. I don't know how we got here. I still feel like it's 2020. I'm still stuck in the fucking pandemic. I'm still stuck in like being locked down, the whole deal. So I don't know where 2021 went entirely. But it's September, here it is. And if you are a newsletter subscriber, you got your newsletter today. And if you did, then you have a heads up on today's topic because I need to talk about this thing, right? It's been driving me nuts. So we're going to talk about that today. So, welcome to Being Back Alive. And just a quick reminder that the September Self Defined Living Seminar is open. The registration is open. You can go ahead and register for that. I'm going to be talking about boundaries and building better boundaries in September. So, you can go ahead and register for that. I'll put the link in the description. Or you could just head over to my website right now in the background while you're listening to me. And that is beccalory.com, LORY.com. And that is, you'll see the Self Defined Living Seminar series. You'll scroll down past all the previous ones and you can register for September's. So that's there, as well as last minute registrations for Self Defined Living, the course going live in September, begins September 15th. We do it again in October and November, and then we are done with this cohort. So if you guys want to be part of the fall 2021 cohort of Self Defined Living, please head over to my website right now, choose the Self Defined Living tab, and go ahead and get yourself registered. I have a few partial scholarships left, and there's something like 2 or 3 seats left in the class. So if you want to get into this class, you want to take it this fall instead of waiting until next spring, please feel free to go over and head and register. We don't begin until September 15th. Okie dokie, that's all out of the way. Let's talk about today's topic. Hey, Bill. Hey, Bernard. Hey, Burnett. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. I want to talk about it because this month's, back it up. This month's newsletter theme was all about building self confidence, right? And how to boost your self confidence. A lot of us on the spectrum, for various and sundry reasons, do not have a lot of self esteem and we do not have a lot of self confidence. And something that keeps you motivated and continues to keep you in the driver's seat of your decision making is self confidence. It's a super important thing that we don't talk about a lot, right? And it gets crisscrossed with self esteem. They're different. There was an article about it in the newsletter. And so let's talk about what it is in self confidence that creates this imposter syndrome. So, what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is that feeling, right, that you are pretending to be something you are not. Right, that idea that the other professionals around you, your colleagues, your peers, your fans, whatever it may be in your particular scenario, right? Are better than you in some way at doing this thing, and you're just pretending and somehow getting away with it, right? That's the feeling of imposter syndrome. And a lot of professionals talk about it because we do something that is deadly to our human well-being. We compare. We do this comparing thing where we look at our others around us, and for some crazy reason imagine that we need to stay at their standards, whatever their standards are. And here's the thing, that's terrible because sometimes other people's standards are worse than yours. And so you're thinking, well, I need to be as much like these people as I can be because I want to be seen the way they are seen. And yet you may be entering into this whole thing with a better setup than they are, right? And so why would you compare yourself to somebody else? The other part of that whole thing is there's only one of you, right? How can you compare your uniqueness to anybody else? right? So if there's only one of you, and the comparing is what gets us in trouble, that's really the piece of the self-confidence that we need to work on, right? I don't know if you guys remember this, but some months back, I had talked about this little awakening moment that I had about self-confidence, where I talked about how flowers just flower. They don't go in, the flowers in a garden don't spend their time in that garden looking at the other flowers around them and going, damn, I wish I was a good flower like they are. I wish I was that kind of flower. I wish I could be as pretty as that flower. Flowers don't do that. They sit in that garden with all the other flowers around them, and their focus is being the best flower that they can be. Whatever that means, whatever color they end up being, whatever height, however many leaves or petals they have, right? They just do their darndest in the time they have in that garden to be the best flower that they can be, right? And that means not being as beautiful as the thing next to you, because beauty is something that is of opinion, right? So it's not about that comparison. Our lives aren't about being as good as bad as pretty as successful as the people next to us, right? Our lives are just about being the best goddamn flower you can be in your garden, right? Just be the best you, and figure out what that is. And so when we go delving down there and we start thinking about where the roots of self-confidence are, and how this comparison piece really kind of, it amputates us in a really incredible way, that we're unable to see ourselves for what we're worth, for our own value, and we only see ourselves through this lens of comparison, and by that our self-confidence goes dipping, right? And so if we remove this comparison piece, and we just spend our days, our every days, our moments to moments, just doing our best to be the best us that we can be, right? Before you know it, other people will be looking at you as the thing they compare themselves to, right? Because here's what everybody wants. Everybody's attracted to positive energy. Everybody is human nature, right? You're attached to people who emanate confidence, who represent this positive force in your life, right? And so if you make it your job to be that thing, right? To be the best you, to emanate confidence, to be positive about your life, it will be inevitable that people will be attracted to what it is that you're doing and attracted to your energy, right? Rather than living in this really isolated negative space where we're constantly thinking about how we compare to others instead of just looking at our value by ourselves, right? And when we make that switch, all the things that we're really looking for out in the world, like being surrounded with quality people who share the same values and priorities, right? Who are trying to enjoy life, those people get attracted to you when you are being your best self, right? So it's part of the same cycle. And when those people are attracted to you and they want to share space and time with you and energy, right? Your confidence goes up. But at the same time, it's your confidence itself that attracts those people to you. So it's this double-edged sword that really just relies upon one very important idea. The idea that there's only one you, and only you can be the best you, right? And no one else can mimic that, right? And when we focus ourselves in that way, and we seek out all of these positives and to attract all of the positives in our lives, we begin building self-confidence without that being our very conscious choice, right? That's where the self-confidence comes from. So once again, if you are feeling frozen and stuck, right, that is not going to change how you feel about yourself. When you begin moving and taking action and participating in the living of life, that is when you begin to change the self-confidence. So if you're in a space of inertia, get the fuck out of it, man. That space of inertia is where all of that negative lives. And if you can just pick yourself up and get in motion a little bit and just be the first domino, right? Everything else will follow. But if you're feeling badly about a lot of things in your life, about yourself, about your circumstances, the best and fastest way to make that go away is to stop sitting still, is to do something about it. Because until you do something about it, it's just going to stay the same, right? There's no reason. You haven't set it in motion. You haven't started it changing. And so it will just continue to be that thing until you take until you take the control back and say, I need to set all of this in motion so that everything else can follow, right? So that's the idea about this whole concept of really imposter syndrome. It's not really imposter syndrome. It's like comparison disease, right? And that's what it is. It's like a disease of your comparison window. You just continue to compare, and in that comparison, you are just cutting yourself off at the ankles, right? And so what I really want to say is it's not imposter syndrome. It's really comparison disease. And I want us to think about that. I want you, the next time you're experiencing imposter syndrome, I want you to reframe it, right? I want you to look at it and say, wait a second, this is just comparison disease. If I pull away the comparisons that I'm doing inside my head right now, I feel okay about myself. But when I'm doing this comparison thing, that's when I start to feel like I'm an imposter, right? So it's really in that comparison that all the power lies, right? It's in that action of comparing that you are creating the lack of self-confidence, that you're creating the poor self-esteem and the environment for poor self-confidence. But if you remove your comparing, right, you are well on your way to building self-confidence, and to eliminating imposter syndrome, right? And so that's the box that I lie in, because I am a sufferer of imposter syndrome. I do it to myself, and I want you to hear that again. I do it to myself all the time, right? I compare, I contrast, I look at all of the other advocates around me. I worry about all of those things when, if I just stayed in my lane and didn't compare, if I continued to use my energy in a positive way, I wouldn't even have the imposter syndrome to deal with. So that's where I'm at with all of it. That's what I've been thinking about these days. And I just wanted to share that with you because I feel like in writing the newsletter this month, that was my big aha, right? I had another aha moment. Like, here's the crux to a lot of the anxiety, right? A lot. I mean, like 90% of the anxiety about being autistic out in the world comes from this comparison, right? So a lot of the anxiety that we're feeling is rooted in this comparison and the idea that we should be like everybody else, that we should look and behave like everybody else, which is a misnomer. All of those people that are looking and behaving like they are the same are only the same in the way that their brains are wired, right? Otherwise, there's a lot of pretending going on, a lot, right? And so we have this prolific amount of imposter syndrome in our community. And it's really just rooted in this anxiety about comparison, that we should all be the same. This idea that our society has that it must cultivate sameness, right? And from that, we create a lot of our own diseases, a lot of our own syndromes, right? From just that very small behavior. And so I leave you today thinking about comparisons, thinking about comparison disease, rather than imposter syndrome, and the idea of building self-confidence from a place that has removed comparison, right? Let's see. Burnett says, my colleagues are constantly pretending. It's confusing. Of course it is, Burnett, because it's pretend. It's imaginary, right? And so of course it's confusing. It's the opposite of what is actually happening. It's the opposite of reality that goes on in these conversations. And if everybody would just stop for a second and do away with that need to compare, right? We would find ourselves pretending a whole lot less, I think, right? And so it's really upsetting when other people stray from their alignment, stray from staying in their lane, right? It's really confusing, because suddenly everything they're saying doesn't match their behavior, right? And what we're looking for as autistics is patterns, and we can't find patterns if your behavior and your words don't match. They're not a pattern, they're a mismatch. What's going on here? It doesn't make sense, right? And so it leaves us in a lurch. And what I think we need to do is think about eliminating that comparison piece, thinking about eliminating that pretending. And if we can lead on that foot, and maybe others will follow, right? Like lead by example. And so that's what I've kind of been thinking about these last few days. I've been thinking about imposter syndrome and self confidence, and this comparison, this habit of comparison. Where does it come from, and where do we get it in our lives, and why do we all continue to do it when it seems to be the thing that is killing us slowly, right on the inside? It kills our spirit. Anyway, so that's the stuff that I was thinking about, and I'm curious just to see what you guys think about imposter syndrome or comparison disease, right? And what you think about where the comparison comes from, right? Where do we learn that habit, and why do we continue to do it when it only makes us feel bad, right? So weird. Another one of those weird habits that if we don't stop and think about them, we will continue to do them, right? Until somebody points it out. So I'm pointing it out to you today. And I want to ask you to pay attention to the amount of times you compare yourself in a day, in a week, right? To other people, where that's where you're getting your judgment from, is through comparison, right? And it's not through fact, and it's not through other observations, but rather through pretending, right? So think about that. I would love to hear what you guys have to think about this topic. I think it's an interesting one, but I'm curious to see what kind of views it gets. I'm curious to see your responses to the idea, and I'm really just curious to see how the idea of self-confidence lives in your lives. I think that is really interesting for me, and where you've seen it cycle, where do you see it show up, whether it's lack thereof of self-confidence, or when it shows up that you have confidence. Either way, I would love to hear what it is that you guys have to say. That's going to be it for me today on Being Becca Live. I have so many things to do today that I have to keep it short because my brain is so busy in the background. I have 80 million things to do today that include things like 3 laundries and doing the grocery shopping. And so I'm a little bit anxious on the inside about getting all those tasks done. And I need to get moving because I do not want inertia to set in today. I really need to get these things done. So for now, I will say goodbye, and I will see you out and about on the interweb. I will see you out there in the world. And if you want to reach out to me, please feel free to leave a comment wherever you're watching this video, or reach out to me via email, info@beccalori.com, or via the contact page on my website, which is Beccalori, LORY.com. And let's see. While you're there, please check out the course that is starting September 15th. Please check out the September seminar series, which is about boosting better boundaries, about boosting your, right? What did I call it? I don't even remember. It's about boundaries, building better boundaries, I think is what I called it. And so we're going to talk about that in September. So please head over to my website, register for those things. And of course, please be in touch with me if you have any other questions, concerns, ideas, blah, blah, blah. It's all on the website and you can get it there. Until then, I will be back here on Sunday with the next Growing Gratitude. And of course, back next Wednesday with the next Being Becca Live. In between, I'll be out and about on the interweb, and I absolutely love seeing your shares, your thumbs up, your comments, your subscriptions. All of that means the world to me. So I appreciate you doing that with me. And until then, I will see you out and about there. Get out there in the world and seek joy, create joy, share joy, all the joys. And I will see you on Sunday for Growing Gratitude. Have a good one, you guys. Bye.